All right, so I don't know about you, but there is nothing cooler than a really slickly animated logo. You may have a great logo already, but you want to take it to the next level with some motion and animation. And today we're going to be doing that. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to create a simple logo animation just like this one that'll be pretty easy to do. And actually, if you don't have a logo file you want to use, you're welcome to download this same file that I'll be working with today from the link in the description below. All right, without further ado, let's get into creating a simple logo animation. So for creating our animation, we're going to start off in Adobe Illustrator. So typically if you have a logo file, that's where you'll find it, is an Illustrator file is what you're going to want to use. You could do this with Photoshop, wouldn't recommend it. So for us, we're starting with Adobe Illustrator. If you're using my file, you can follow along. It should appear just like this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to need to separate each of the elements we want to animate into different layers. And so the way we'll do it is over here in our layers panel, we'll just create some new layers. And then I'm going to name them each of the different items. So I want to have each of these words animated individually. So I will type American, Materials, USA. I'm also going to want to animate these little blue bars down here. So I will write one called Bars, and then the stars as well. So I'll have one called Stars. So now I'm going to click and I'm going to ungroup these layers, Shift-Command-G, and then I have them each individually now. I'm going to ungroup this one again, and I'm going to group all these word letters together for the word. So American, Materials, USA is already grouped. These are grouped. So now I just need to separate them. So an easy way to do that is click something, click Command X, which will cut it. And then Command F will paste it in place. Once we selected this new layer, it should paste into that new layer. So we'll just repeat this process for all of our different objects. Great, and then I can delete this first layer that we had. All right, so one last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ungroup the stars, Shift-Command-G, and that should give them to me individually. Something that'll help us out is if we can get these stars in the right order. We're gonna be animating starting with this first one, then the second ones, then the third ones, and then the fourth ones. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna twirl down my stars layer panel, and I'll be able to see them all right here. If I click on this little button, it'll select them, and this shows us the order that they're in. So basically what we want to do is get that center one as the very first one and the other ones to follow. I actually think I have some duplicates in here of this center, so I'll delete that. And then, so I see this is my center, so I'm going to drag this to the top. Let's see, this is one of the second ones, so I'll drag it up underneath. This is the third one. I'm going to wait until I can find all the second. Okay, that's the second one. Drag it to the third spot. This one I'll drag to the bottom. This one I'll drag up, and then that. So let's double check. It doesn't matter really left to right which one's first, but we just want to get those in order. Great. That'll help us more whenever we are opening up our project in After Effects. So I'm going to save this as a new file. I'm going to call it the logo animation. I usually save a separate animation file of the logo because you're going to need different things to work with it. That's all we need to do in Illustrator. So now we can bring it over into Adobe After Effects. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go over to our project panel. I'm gonna double click in here to import, and then I'm gonna choose that animation file. Where I click import as, I'm gonna do it as a composition and ask it to retain layer sizes. And I can check this to go ahead and create a composition, because we'll be doing that anyway. Here we go, I'll double click on my composition to open it up. Right now you can see the background is black. For the sake of my sanity, I'm gonna go to composition settings, and change the background to white, just so it's easier for us to see and animate with. Click OK. All right, and now we have each of these layers. As you can see, they have the little Adobe Illustrator icon next to them. What we want to do is we want to create shape layers out of these Illustrator layers. So right click, create shapes from vector layer, and I'll click that. Now it's created all these new layers that are shape layers within After Effects that are going to be easier to animate. So what I'll do is I'll bring them to the top with Command close bracket. And then for these other ones, I can delete them or hide them. I'm just going to delete them. We shouldn't need them again. All right, and so now I can animate each of these different pieces. So we're gonna start with the text. We're gonna do something really simple, is we're just gonna make it move upwards and fade in at the same time. So when you're animating a logo, you wanna go ahead and bring your cursor out maybe to 1 second, or you wanna go to a certain spot, and that's where you wanna start and work backwards, because you want the logo to finish animating in at the spot where it looks like it currently does, the final version. And so what I'll do is I'll twirl down here, and I will go to, see, our contents will break down each of our letters separately. I don't need to animate each of the letters separately. You can if you want. So instead I'll just go to transform, and this transform property affects everything in that layer. So I'm going to click to track position and to track opacity. And then if I move it back just a little bit, then I will take my position, and this is the Y value on the second spot, which is your up and down values. If I click plus 50, then that should bring it down 50 pixels. And then for my opacity, I'm going to bring it to 0. So now it's not going to be pretty, but when I animate it in, there we go. Pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is the same thing for materials and USA. I can actually click them both and then click P to bring up position. And I'll track that. And I can click T to bring up opacity. And now a really great trick is when you click these layers again and then click U, it'll automatically just bring up only the things that already have keyframes. So it's easy for me to see just what I'm working with. So same thing here, position. I'm going to do plus 50, and then I'm going to bring my opacity to 0. For the USA, I'm not going to do plus 50 because it's a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to do plus 25. It'll get the same effect, but it'll look a little funny because it's a different size than the other words. And then I'll bring that to 0. So animating all together, we've got this. All right, so that's not very pretty. They're kind of boring, and the motion is not great, and they're all at the same time. We're going to fix all those things. So what I'm going to do is select all of these and click Fin F9, which creates an easy ease, which will kind of smooth in our animations to make it look a little snappier. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything and right click and do our keyframe velocity. And so I'm going to change this to about, let's say 75 and then maybe 60. I have a feeling these are a little bit too close. We can try our animation and see how it looks. Drag our preview bar in. So that's pretty quick. It needs to be a little more smooth. So what I can do is I can just drag all of these first keyframes out to the left a bit. Let's see how this looks. Okay, that's nice. Now what I got to do is I just have to stagger my animation. So if I click these two bars here for our materials and our USA, I can actually just drag them to the right a few frames, and this should give us a nice delay. There we go. That looks pretty slick. All right, so our text is ready to go. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to animate these two bars on the left and right of USA. So for this, we're going to do something a little bit different. So we're going to right click in this empty space and create a new solid. Doesn't matter what color it is. We can just call it mask for the sake of simplicity. And then click OK. It should automatically be the size of your window. And so I'm going to put mask right above bars. And if you click here, you may have to toggle your switches back and forth, but you should see one that says track matte. And so if I click track matte and click the alpha matte USA lines, what it means, or sorry, I'm going to click down below it to the bars layer and then alpha matte mask. What this means is anywhere where this mask shape exists is where you'll be able to see the bars. So for example, if I've clicked the mask shape and I drag it around, see as it goes outside of the square that the mask is, it's going to hide those bars. Click undo to get it back center. The reason we want to do this is we're going to animate these bars expanding outward. And a simple way to do that is for me to go to my transform properties here. Again, I'm going to go to start at 1, and then I'm going to have the scale be what we change. So what's important here is I'm going to unclick my constrain properties option, and then this is my horizontal and vertical again. Don't need to mess with the vertical. So I'm going to bring my horizontal scale in till right outside of where we need it. So about right there, 75. Then I'm going to scale back a little bit, and I'm going to bring it in a little bit more to right at the start of those bars. Okay, so now if we see how it animates, it will bring those out. Obviously, that's not the right timing, but that gives us our animation. Again, we're going to do Fin F9 for an easy ease, and right-click the keyframes to keyframe velocity. We'll bring this up to about 75 and then about 60, 65. There we go. All right, let's see how this looks. You can also click this little button to where it'll just solo out and you can just see the one layer you're working with. Nice, pretty snappy. I'll turn that off so we get everything again. And we're pretty close here. We just need to animate the stars and then align everything for its timing. All right, so we're going to go to the stars. And what we're going to do is we're going to twirl these down and twirl down our contents. So remember how we arrange each of our layers in specific order. That's going to reflect here. See how this group is the first star. The next one is these two. The next one is these two. So it's going to go in order going all the way down. There are some different ways to do this, but I'm going to keep it relatively simple. You could group the two stars together into its own group and animate that. We're just going to stick with what we've got. All right, so select everything and twirl down. So it should twirl down all of these. And then you'll have to twirl down the transform as well. This one you'll have to do individually. So a little tedious, but once that's done, I'm going to go back to my 1 second. And if I click to start my tracking of the position and of the opacity, because I have all these selected, you see how it also tracks them all across each of the groups. So this is kind of hard for me to scale through and see all of my keyframes so far apart. So I'll click that layer again and do that shortcut, the button U, and it should just show me what I need to see. Pretty great. All right, so now what we'll do is we are going to track these in a little bit. So we'll go back maybe to the same mark, and we're going to do a similar thing that we did to where we add actually, what's even easier, we could do this thing to where we go in and we do plus 25 or something, and that's our movement. But what we can actually do is if we click U and then twirl everything up and then twirl it down one at a time, if we click all of these together, and remember our timeline needs to not be on this original keyframe, but a little bit before. So it's saying whatever we do here is going to track to this new position. So if I actually just click these, I want to make sure I don't click one of the anchors on accident. But if I click it and just drag these down a little bit, look at that. It's created all new keyframes for us automatically. There we go. We can make them a little bit lower if we want. I might bring them down just a little bit more. Also, holding the shift button while you're dragging is going to help make sure that it locks it into only going vertical or horizontal, so you don't have them kind of wiggling in different areas. All right, so we're pretty close here. I'm going to click this and click U again. So we see that we have tracked the positions, but we don't have tracked our opacity. So for each of these, what we can do is select them all again, one at a time. And then we should be able to bring our opacity down to 0. All right, so now we have keyframes for all of this. So the stars come in, and we're about to do something that's going to make them look really cool. But before we do, select all these keyframes, Fn, F9. We're also going to do that keyframe velocity, same as we did before. Say about 75, and then about 65. Okay, pretty good. Just one last thing that's going to help make this look really slick. So what I want to do is I want to have the middle star animate first, and then the ones going outward animate after. So the next 2 stars will animate next, and then the ones after that. So what I'll do, because these are all ordered nicely for me, is I can actually just surround these keyframes and move them up maybe 2 frames. Then I'll take the next set and match them to here, and then move them up 2 more. And then the next set and do the same. So now what's going to happen is something really cool where our stars will animate a little bit independently. See how they have this nice smooth motion? Honestly, I think it's a little bit too long, so I'm going to undo it and actually just move 1 keyframe each. I want it to be really subtle. Let's try that now. There we go. I like that. All right, so the last part of our animations, now we have all the pieces together, is to time everything. So we already have the text kind of how I like it. So now what it's going to be is just changing our stars and also our bars that animate at the bottom. So because what we're actually animating here is this big mask, remember, you're not going to want to move your bars because that won't change your timing of your animation. Because this is where our keyframes are. That's what will move left and right to change whenever that animation comes in. So I would like right as USA is coming up, the kind of a trick of motion is you don't want to let all the motion stop. You want things to begin right as something else is ending. So right as that USA is coming up, that's when I want this to start. And then kind of probably the same with the stars. There we go. Might be a little bit too late. Let's bring it a little closer. And so the stars, I'll do the same. Let's just try this. My stars seem a little late. Or maybe a little early. A lot of times animation like this is just finagling things till you get it how you like. Maybe it's also I need to make these bars animate over a longer period of time. There we go. All right, there we go. We have a simple and clean logo animation in Adobe After Effects. I'd encourage you as you're starting to work with your own files and learn how to do it for maybe your logo or your client's logo, start simple. A lot of times we want to create something really complex, and some logos are complex and they'll require more complex animations. But a lot of times I find that a simple and clean logo animation is really the best. So try new things, explore. After Effects can do so much, but I'd encourage you, if you're starting with a logo animation, start something simple and something clean and see if you like it, because I often find that those can be my best products. All right, well, that's all I have for today. If you want to get more content from this channel, I'd encourage you to subscribe and like this video, and you'll see more stuff coming your way soon.